Good morning, beautiful people. I'm tuning in a little later this morning than I have been over the week because it's the weekend, which means I got to kind of just take my morning slowly. It's still progressing. But the one fun thing I did do this morning is I was watching Victor Borgnine videos that came up on my Instagram reel. If you don't know who he is, I really suggest checking him out. He is a comedian and a pianist that I was introduced to back in my music class back in high school. And he is really worth the good chuckle and the feel good vibes if you're looking for something this morning. So definitely recommend checking him out. So I'm going to tune in and see what the message is for all of us today. And let's start off our weekend. So the first thing that's coming through is remember, and they're talking about remembering the little moments in your childhood, in your teenage years, in your young adult life, where you are just kind of figuring out how to move about the planet and really use your senses and really start to try to make sense of the world around you. Remember the things that instantly brought you joy. In a lot of cases, you're going to start remembering certain experiences, certain people, right? But then they want you to dig deep and pull back even a little deeper of like, okay, what time of year was it? What were the colors around you? What were the sounds around you, the smells around you? Paint a fuller picture, because sometimes we're just like, oh yeah, family Christmas time really brought me a lot of joy. That was really great. Or family barbecues. And they're saying, yes, there's truth to that. But they want you to go a little deeper and paint a fuller picture of like, what were all the elements that were present? Because when we have these snapshots of moments of joy from our young adult life, they're usually so memorable because so many of the elements, so much of the environment around us was absolutely perfect to capturing that memory for us. So what they're saying is those moments that we can remember almost like a picture, almost like a photograph, that those were moments where all of the elements were really picturesque, picture perfect enough for us to remember it as a snapshot. So they want you to figure out what were all those elements in play, because we're not always going to have moments that we're walking through the life where everything aligns perfectly, but those little things that were all put together in one spot. So maybe it was the time of year and like the flowers or the leaves were just starting to come out, and you could hear the birds in the background, and you were with your favorite person, and you were also eating your favorite dessert and just sitting outside in the sunshine on a blanket. Maybe it was you with your parents having a picnic outside, right? So there was a couple things that were bringing you joy. It was like the newness of spring coming back to life, springing back, right? It was the favorite food. It was the sound of the birds. It was the sunshine. It was like sitting on the ground with this beautiful picnic blanket, or maybe just a blanket from the back of mom's truck, right? There were all these elements, because sometimes we get hung up on having everything be exactly the same. But if we can just focus on the elements of that picturesque moment that were building that snapshot, we can pull some of those things in our daily life all the time. Maybe it's the middle of winter, and that maybe that picnic piece is like one of your favorite memories. You can still pull a blanket out and have dinner, have family dinner on the floor in the middle of your living room. If you live alone like me, you can still get a charcuterie board, sit on a blanket in the middle of your living room and do dinner that way, because that's still bringing in some of the elements that was making you so happy, even if you can't have the full picture. So what they're saying is go back, start remembering those moments, those big moments for you that brought you joy, and then start figuring out all the little pieces that were picture perfect. And then if you can't create the full picture, and what I'm hearing from Spirit right now is there's a lot of sadness of loss of people who are no longer with us, either because they've passed to spirit or because they have moved on in their lives. And what they're saying is, yes, maybe right now, maybe in this lifetime, there's no way to bring those people back into our lives, but we can still create the rest of the elements that made us feel joyful and happy and connected. And by doing that, we are reconnecting with the spirit of that person. We are reconnecting with the energy of that person. Even if they're still alive on this plane, but you have grown apart, by just doing some of pulling in some of that energy and pulling in some of those favorite moments, you're still reconnecting with them on an energetic level. So what they're saying is, again, remember those big pieces and then figure out all those little elements that brought the beauty into light. And even if you can't recreate the exact same moment, because that's not what life is about, you can still be pulling in those little beautiful pieces that made up the bigger picture in fun ways throughout the year, throughout the day. So I'm going to leave that message with you with love and light, and hopefully it resonates with you on some level, and hopefully you can find something that you can do that can pull just a little bit of joy in. I was thinking, now that I'm processing this with you, I was just thinking of the other day, I was sitting out front of my apartment, and it was sunny, it was beautiful. And all of a sudden, one of our neighbors has wind chimes somewhere, and they're far enough away that they're not like super annoying. They're actually kind of beautiful because they're not like too much in your face. And it just reminded me of my grandfather. My grandfather used to make wind chimes, and when I grew up, when I was a little girl, there was always wind chimes. We shared property with his brother, my great uncle. So there's a lot of property, and there were 2 trailers between the spaces. And there were wind chimes all over on the property. And it just had this moment of it just, there was great joy there. It reminded me of being a kid, right? And it reminded me of my grandfather, and it reminded me of those beautiful summer and spring days I just spent running around. So look for moments like that, and don't let them pass you by. Ground in them for a moment. Take them as the medicine that they're meant to be for the day. Leave that with you with love and light.